Welcome to the Businessmen and Women of Color podcast. I am your host, Ann Alston, and it is once again my pleasure to bring quality programs to all of you. I am excited, yes, again, with another amazing professional in the financial industry here that's also going to be talking to us about tax health. And I call it tax health because a lot of us are out of health when it comes to our taxes. And she is also a BMWC corporate sponsor. So I'm really excited to have her on the platform this year. If you have missed your chance to be on the 2018 platform, make sure you check with us at the end of the year for the 2019 Call of Speakers. So don't miss your opportunity for that, or to be in the BMWC magazine that we just launched this year. Just in case you did not know, the purpose of the BMWC is to not only share our industry information, but we are encouraging you, the career seekers, to look at the different lines of professions that are out there and really understand what is changing in this industry so that you can make better decisions about your career or your business. So with that, you need to make sure that you visit all of the pages and listen to all of the podcasts that we are having on this year. We can't stress enough how much information we have going on. So make sure you get your pencil, your pen, make sure you take down lots of notes, make sure you reach out directly. That's why their information is on their speaker page so that you can get in touch with these experts that is on this platform this year. Before we get started with our interview today, we would like to first thank our corporate sponsors for their support, which are Cat Sereno, LLC, Cheryl Wood and Powers, Concern and Learning, Evangelism Radio, Genesis Preferred Solutions, J Coach International, Nels Tax Help, My Financial Home, Power, STCI, and the student teacher, along with our other business partners and sponsors, and everyone who is supporting this event. So, to no further ado, we're going to bring in Chanel Simmons. Chanel is the founder of Nell's Tax Help with over 15 years of experience in tax and accounting. She enjoys helping small business owners get out of tax trouble and stay out of tax trouble. And she is also a former IRS revenue agent. So this is really good information. You want to stay tuned to this interview. She has an MBA in accounting and finance. She has a graduate certificate in advanced accounting, and she is also a federally licensed control agent. So I want you to continue looking at her bio because in addition to all of that, she's also the author of a recently released ebook, Asking for Success, My Faith and Walk from Employee to Entrepreneur, which we're going to be talking about that today. So Chanel, welcome to the
Hi.
podcast, girl. What's up? Whoop, whoop.
Hey, Ann. How are you?
I'm excited. I'm gonna tell you, I'm excited. I'm just having a really great time with the podcast. And first of all, I want to personally thank you for supporting the BMWC by becoming a
You're most
corporate
welcome.
sponsor. And
Yes.
I'm gonna tell you guys, I met her at Money Baltimore. We sat next to each other. We gave advice. It was fun. And you know what?
Yep.
I told her about this podcast, and she said, I am there.
And yep, I really did, and I kept my word, and here we are, 2018.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, while I may know a little bit about you, let's talk about who you are and where you're from and how did you get into accounting?
Okay, so I am a B more girl, born and raised, and I've always been good at math. It's always been my thing. What's so funny was for a little while in high school, I did attend an art school. I went to Carver for literary arts. So writing is also my other passion. And one time in life, I had wanted to be Oprah, but then, I realized Oprah is very, very busy, and journalists are very,
Mhm.
very busy people. And you always have to follow the story and follow the news. And I didn't think I wanted to be up in the middle of the night chasing the story because that's how I am. I really go for things. So I was like, no. And I always notice every time I look back at everything I always wanted to do, around that time I was like, this and accounting, that and accounting, that and accounting. So I was just like, okay, well, let me just be an accountant. And it was the best thing I could have done. I've always been really good when it comes to money, and I've always, really good with numbers. And what made me decide to specialize in taxes is taxes infiltrates all money matters. Everything that has to deal with money is either taxable or non-taxable. I mean, that's literally the entire tax code sum up in a matter of 4 words. It's either taxable or or
Or
non-taxable. It
non-taxable. That's right.
right, and that's the truth. And so therefore, I just like the fact that with my accounting degrees, you learn a little bit of everything in the financial world. And when it comes to taxes, you kind of need to know, or at least be familiar or resourceful enough to look up a little bit about everything. You're never going to know it all. There's no way. And if you do, then you're a special kind. But you'll never know it all. Tax laws change every single year. And for every way anybody can make money, it has a tax effect, whether it's taxable or not. So therefore, you will never, be a 100% expert in all things. But I do love the fact that it's so diverse. And I love learning about how different people make their money. And then, of course, how the tax law applies to that. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
That's
In
me.
my little tax nerd world.
You know what? I am just happy to hear how excited you are about learning more about the tax code. A lot of us are afraid of that, afraid of
Mm,
learning what the tax code is. And the only thing we
mm,
know is how much am I going to get at the end of the year, or how many
mm.
exemptions can I stick on my paycheck so that I can get the
Right.
most at the beginning of the year. But I don't think we all get excited about just learning what the tax code is and what's taxable and what's not. So why do you feel it's really important for us as a minority community to really understand that, besides just what I mentioned there?
Absolutely. Okay, so first and foremost, um, and people are really going to learn if they never ever saw how impactful tax law and tax procedure is just in general. I feel like the world is about to see it with what had just happened in December 2017 with the tax reform, because when you know the tax code and you know the procedures, you can legally work it in your favor to keep more money in your pockets, to keep more money in your business, and potentially get additional money from the government if it's a credit that you qualify for. And if you're not aware of what's out there for you, then it's money that you're literally leaving on the table. A lot of people always get excited about refunds, but what a lot of people don't understand when it comes to a refund is truly an interest-free loan to the government. In the tax world, we always say the perfect return is a return that has zero at the bottom, because that means that you didn't pay too much, and and of course you didn't owe. And what's important about not paying too much, especially as a business owner, you would much rather have that money going back into your company and being available to you to use throughout the year, whether it's to buy paper or to buy the equipment that you've been waiting to get for a while. You rather have it always available to you than to be sitting in the treasury in DC until April, you know? So it's always important to
Hmm.
just know what it is that you're doing, because the simple fact of the matter is there are legal ways that you can strategize to have your money work for you and not
Right.
just sitting with the government.
Okay, so can you give like one quick example about how businesses or individuals just leave money on the table because they just didn't know this one thing?
Yes. So one way people leave money on the table is one of the most, particularly for solo entrepreneurs. Many people who are solo entrepreneurs start off or always have a home office, right? And one of the biggest rumors that, I always hear that I always try to dismiss is people say, oh, don't claim the home office deduction. It's a big flag for you to get audited. No, it's not. One, they audit you just because. An audit, 9 times out of 10, is a random event. It really is. And you get picked up like the lottery. That's why when I used to be an agent, we used to laugh and say, "Oh, you won the lottery today because I'm auditing you." I used to actually tell people that, and they'd be like, "What?"
Oh,
but
wow.
but but when you take the home office deduction, a lot of expenses when you're not a business owner that you wouldn't typically claim, like your electricity. like your homeowner's insurance, like even your if you have a second line, or even if your home line ends up being the only line that you're using and you're using it for your business, it's possible that you can deduct the business portion of it. And a lot of people don't want to do it because they're like, oh well, I might get audited for that. And it's like, no, you could literally end up reducing your taxable income by hundreds or even thousands of dollars, depending on, the space of your home that you're using for your office in relation to the space of the entire house and what percentage that is. And you can deduct all kinds of expenses that are necessary and ordinary for the operations of your business. And that's how a lot of people leave money on the table. A lot of people get scared about taking certain deductions, and it's like, well, is it necessary for you to run your business? Well, yeah. Okay. Is it necessary for you to produce income? Well, yeah. Okay, then. As long as you can prove that you actually paid it, let's put that on there. If it's not, you can't abuse it either, though. Because like I know one thing a lot of people like to do is they'll say, okay, my friends and I, we went to dinner at
Mm-hmm.
Carrabba's, and I mentioned my business, and therefore it's a business dinner. No.
No, that's not the way that works.
It's like, no, that's not how that works. But you'll have people who try. They'll be like, what do you mean? I mentioned my business. I even handed out my business cards. What are you talking about? No, the real reason you went was for your friend's birthday party, and and you handed out the cards like, oh, I'm gonna try to deduct it as a business expense.
Right, right.
No.
Can't do that. Okay, so everybody, you heard that. You can't be going out there shysting with the business cards thinking it's a business
you know,
expense, because you
right
do have
now.
you do have to account for that stuff, because expenses can go against you too, right?
Absolutely. So, like with the example of the business cards, now mind you, business cards are business cards. You go to Vistaprint or whomever you using to print out your cards. The deductible is an advertisement expense. So the business card cost is a deductible thing. But all because of the fact that you might be handing them out somewhere. Like you went to a hotel and you handed them, and you're on vacation and you're handing them out. And I'm using real examples people have tried to propose to me as to why they're legitimate business expenses, and I'm like, no. They'll go to like this one individual went to a hotel on vacation, handed the entire front desk business cards, and tried to say that their hotel stay was a business expense because they networked. No.
Oh, oh my goodness, really? Wow, how can they do that? Okay, well, you know what? Let's go to the other end of the spectrum. Okay, so let's say that this person who did all that became audited. What are the worst case scenarios? Because I really want people to understand, what is the repercussion if you are not accounting for true business expenses?
Well, this is the thing. Particularly the IRS, Maryland is. I always tell people Maryland is a little more vicious than the IRS, believe it or not. So those of you who are listening who are in Maryland, yeah, you're just kind of forewarned. But with the IRS, since that impacts anyone in the nation, their sole focus is income. I tell people they're called the Internal Revenue Service. So when it comes to expenses, expenses are on you as a business owner, and there's actually a tax code for those of you who are out there that's nerdy enough like me. It's IRC Section 6001. If you want to Google, feel free. But basically, there's a tax law code section that basically says the burden is on the taxpayer, and that includes business owners, to prove their
Hmm.
business expenses and to prove that it's necessary and ordinary for the operations of their business, and that it's also an expense that's made for the production of income. And then, of course, there are certain expenses that have their own special rules and regulations. But at the end of the day, if you can't prove that one, it happened, so like if it, and I'm gonna tell you right now, bank statements and credit card statements many a time are not enough, because a lot of times all the bank statement's going to show is like Target, right? And
Right.
I'm gonna use Target as an example. It's gonna use Target and it's gonna say like maybe $50. You're saying that you went to Target and you got office supplies, and that could be true. You might have went and got some paper, got you a cute little planner. You know how you do. You go to Target, you go into that little stationery section and go buck wild, right? So, 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 but on that bank statement, all it says is Target, and it says
Right.
the day, and it says the $50 that you spent. But
Mhm.
how do I know that that's $50 for the little cute little stationery that you got for your business, or
Mhm.
is that $50 of you? You know, you hit the clearance rack in the back.
Oh, you hit the clearance right.
You
Yeah, you
know,
got if especially if that receipt doesn't even say what it is, like you're
exactly,
saying, how do you
exactly.
prove that to an IRS agent is looking at you
Right,
funny, like,
right.
no, you won't be able to deduct this. No, you won't be able to
Right.
deduct that.
So so therefore that's why it's really important for you to have the receipts, because at least with the receipt would have showed, like in my example, the receipt would have showed, okay, you got a planner, you got some paper, you got some pens. 9 times out of 10 this probably is for the business, no harm, no foul. But if it's just you coming with your bank statement saying, oh yeah, everything hits the bank account, and something's going to Target, even for you contractors out there who will go to like Home Depot or Lowe's, they'll scratch that out and say, look, I don't know, did you go to Home Depot or Lowe's for your job that you're going to work on? Or did you go for your house, or maybe your rental property? I really don't know. So you always have to have a little bit more support for your transactions. That does not necessarily mean you have to have a whole mass of paper. I'm talking to the younger folks now, because I know some of you out there probably freaking out right now, like, oh no, she wants me to keep all this paper. No, that's not necessary. Even with your electronic documents, though, it just needs to make sure that it's detailed, and it has to basically show what happened, who did you get it from, how much, and the date. But most importantly, it has to be retrievable. A lot of times, what happens with those electronic documents is you might take a picture or save it in a PDF file, whatever like that, but then it becomes corrupt. Now you lost your support. I personally, and I just think because of, I'm like in some weird generation space in between. I found out and that I'm a xennial, whatever that.
You're a
I'm not.
Xennial?
I'm not. I'm not Generation X, and I'm not a millennial. I'm in the middle, so I'm like, that's kind of cool,
You know what?
Like,
I don't even know what generation I'm in. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know, and I never really paid attention to like what generation I am. I
I
just
found
know I
out I
used to
was a
play
xennial.
dodgeball and all that good stuff.
Yeah, see, and see, what's funny about being, I want to tell you, what's funny about being a xenial is they acknowledge that the people that are xenial, we're a small group. They found out that, we basically kind of flirt that line between old school and new school, which is so true. And like, I'm a fan of paperless, I am, but I'm also a fan of a paper trail. And I think that's just because of how, when I was starting to learn accounting, I was brought up in the, you always keep a paper trail. And yet, now more and more everybody's moving towards, oh, just back it up and save it, take a picture of it, have it wireless. However, I'll put it to you just like this. Imagine a person right now if I told them, oh, I need to see the backup of your deed, and they saved that deed on a floppy disk. They're screwed, right?
Oh my
There's
goodness.
no, you know what I'm saying? And that's what you kind of come into play
Mhm.
with electronic documents,
Right.
unfortunately, when it comes to trying to prove expenses. If in fact the software that you saved it on has updated, or you have no way to retrieve that information now is basically lost, and
Yeah.
it puts you in a bind. So
Mhm.
just always keep that in your mind when it comes to these electronic documents, as far as backup and proof when it comes to the IRS, because IRS at the end of the day, they
Mhm.
want you to prove that happened, and it's on you legally.
Mhm.
It's on you for the expenses. Revenue, as far as income's concerned, they have their ways to find out how much money you made. So
Yep.
if you want to talk about that, we can. But they do
Yeah,
have
let's
their
talk
ways.
about that. Yeah, because I mean, what you're talking about, what I really love about this interview right now is that we're not really just talking about the traditional, okay, this is taxes, this is for your business. You're talking about what happens when you're a small business and you do
Mhm.
not have your A to Z, okay? I
Mhm.
know for me, I'm old school. I like paper. I like to see
Me
the
too.
physical paper in my hand. I have
Mhm.
file cabinets of paper. And my rule of thumb is I don't throw away anything for the past 10 years because I never
That's
know when
great.
people are going to ask me for stuff. And I literally have had people say, can you please provide me something 5 years ago to prove that
Mhm.
something happened or you paid something that's showing up somewhere? And I'm like, well, here you go. And then they go, oh my goodness, I'm always getting compliments about paperwork. And
Mhm.
yeah, I'm a
Mhm.
paper hog. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm a
Mhm.
paper hog. I'm like hoarders. I'm gonna have my paper, but I know where
Mhm.
it is. So let's talk about this other thing too about the revenue stream. You know how IRS can find ways to find out how much money you made.
Okay, so you have a
I
I. All right, so I have literally encountered people who tell me, and look, I'm gonna even I'm gonna try to do the voice even because it's hilarious what they'll say. Girl, I'm not worried about it. I collect cash. There's no way they gonna know that I made X amount of money. Blah 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, well you have fun with preparing your return, and when you get audited, I will see what I can do to help you out because you know you're wrong, right? What happens is that the IRS, for the person who's like that, if you have cash, if you're dealing a lot in cash and you think to yourself, oh, there's no way that they can know what I make. I'm not recording it. I'm not putting anything in the bank. The first question is going to become, one, you have certain expenses that you pay for your cost of living, right? Like you pay your mortgage or your
right.
rent. You pay
Exactly.
for your car note, right? You pay for your lights. You're paying for your cell phone bill, your clothes, all that stuff. Your food. You're paying for all that, right? And if if you're like, I have no other way to pay for that, guess what? I can basically justify, and it will stand up in the court of law, and it does stand up in the court of law. I can say, based off of the expenses I know that you make X amount of dollars a year. Boom.
Mm.
There's that.
So they're gonna call you out right there in court. Says how you gonna
Basically,
take care of everything if you have no money? You have money coming from somewhere. So whether it
right,
doesn't even matter at that
look,
point where it came from.
your lights is on. Like let's say you're a store, let's say you're a hair salon, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And you have your salon and the lights are on, booths and everything are lined up, and you know you got your products and stuff on display, people getting paid. You got you got some workers or whatever the case may be. But yet you trying to say you only make certain amount of money. They're gonna sit there and basically look at you and say no. No, and they actually send people out, and they'll send like a part of an audit is they will send someone out if you get a part of a field examination because there's several different types of audits.
Mhm.
The main three are there's the correspondence audit. Those are the ones that most of you can't stand when you go to your mail and it basically says you owe us this amount of money and this is why. And
Oh
if you
my
don't feel
God.
that it's right, send us in your proof and we'll make an adjustment, right? That's
Mhm.
the correspondence audit. Then there's what they call an office audit. They'll send you a letter out basically saying like, you've been audited and right as of right now, this is your standing appointment. Call the agent to change the appointment date. And then you come into the office, to the IRS office with all of your proof of everything and you guys will work it out usually within that day. It's usually pretty easy adjustments. This is more for the more simpler returns. And and then you basically walk away with an adjustment or whatever reports you may have, or nothing at all. Sometimes if everything on the return is correct, then they shake your hand and you have a nice day. That does happen sometimes. Very rare, but it happens. And then you have a field audit. A field audit is when the agent, just like the office auditor, will send you a letter saying that you're going to be audited, and then they come out to you. I used to be a field agent. So you go to the office and or home, depending on the place of where the person is, and you go with all of their books and records. Those things can take months depending on how complicated or how much stuff you have. And
Oh wow.
then yeah, or years. I mean, like it really depends on the complexity. And when typically a field agent, you can deal with something as simple as just a W-2 wage earner, and that's pretty much all they got, or it could be as complex as a partnership that owns other partnerships and corporations and have up to $10 million in assets and offshore disclosures. it can get really complicated. So it depends on what we're talking about. Those audits can last maybe a few weeks, maybe in a few hours, depending on how
Right.
simple it is.
And you're kind of
Mhm.
going out there and you're asking them for this proof and that proof and then
Mhm.
looking at it and evaluating and making
Mhm.
decisions and they're
Yep.
stressing out because they
Yep.
can't
So
find a
then,
receipt.
exactly. So
My goodness.
so when it comes, like I said, when it comes to the income, in addition to just using common sense logic and just trying to recompute things, because they call those alternative income methods. So in addition to not only just using your expenses, let's let's say if you were a store again, let's say you mark up everything in the store X amount of dollars, they might ask you for your purchasing sheet, and then you would provide it to them. They'll ask you what's the markup. You tell them, bam, I now know how much your gross receipts are, because at the end of the day, that's how much you would have basically, if all this stuff sold during the year, that's how much you made during the year, but based off of the markup. So there's definitely a lot of different computational ways they can figure out what your income is. And then there's also the old good fashioned way. They'll summons your bank records flat out. I
They sure
I do
would.
it all. I used to do it all the time. And when they summons the bank records, it's not just the bank statements. They get the deposit slips. They get the canceled checks. They see all. So yeah,
Taxes is scary. That's what
it
one of
it is.
my son's friends used to say when I was explaining to her how to even just look at IRS.gov. She used to say taxes is scary. But you know, it's really not just being scary. It's just really being aware and mindful of the
Mhm.
responsibility when it comes to your taxes.
Absolutely.
Because you can get in really big trouble. I know for me, I missed one thing and I'm paying thousands for like, I don't know, a couple of years until I pay it off or something like that.
Right. Right.
And
And then
for business is probably even worse.
right. And for business owners, the biggest thing about when it comes to taxes is a lot of times people fear the IRS. And that's why I was saying about I'll get back to Maryland later. Maryland, all of you out there listening who is from Maryland, Maryland's no joke. You don't play with Maryland. Maryland's coming for your vehicle registration. Maryland's coming for your license, like to practice. So like if you're a lawyer or you're an RN or
Yep,
you're a
I've
doctor,
seen that before. Yeah, they
they
will
will
come after your
take your
personal
they will
wages.
cut off your ability to renew your license. You will be unable to work
Mm,
until you settle whatever your tax responsibility is. And that's why as a business owner it's important to make sure you take care of all of your tax obligations. So what that could look like: the federal taxes, your state, if you are in a commonwealth, the local, payroll taxes. And payroll is really important. A lot of people always want to make everybody a 1099, but in fact that person that's your worker really may be an employee, and you should be treating them as an employee and not a contractor. And that goes beyond you just saying, well, here's a 10, I gave him a 1099, that makes him a contractor. No, no, no. There's factors involved with that. And really quickly, one of the main factors would be, can that person control their time as far as like when they work and when they don't work? Do they invoice you, or do you determine what they're going to get paid? Um, um, and another factor would be, is there a uniform involved? Are they
mhm.
allowed to work wherever, or do they have to report into your office every day? So some of those things where it's like, do you have a contract? Do you have because like a contract will honestly save you everything. If you have a contract that says that this person is truly an independent contractor, they can come and go as they please. I just hired them to do a certain job, but once that job is over, they can go if they want. That Then that's great. But if you don't have anything in place and the person's literally, you determine their schedule, if they don't do certain things, it's not about you basically saying like I'm not going to pay you, whatever like that. It's like you would someone who's a contractor, basically like I'm not going to pay you, and this is terminated. Like you literally have to fire them if it's
Mm,
if all of that is going on. That person is an employee, and you should be paying employment taxes. So that's one.
exactly.
Sales tax. There's sales tax for those
Mhm.
of you out there with your t-shirt business and and your Amazons and your eBays and all
That's
of that good
right.
stuff.
Uh-huh.
you know, you got to be very careful about that sales tax, and they're cracking more and more down on when you have virtual businesses because they fully understand that a lot of you guys are out there making this internet money. They want a piece of the pie. So sales tax, the one that all of us in Maryland absolutely can't stand, the personal property tax. Ugh.
Oh my goodness, that's $300 every
That
year,
three
whether you
hundred
make
dollars is
money
a
or not.
nightmare.
Yes, and
Right,
let me
that
tell
three
you
hundred
something.
dollars.
I'm gonna tell you, Chanel, you got everybody sitting here looking real cringing right now about because they like, you know what? I better go check on some stuff because she just told me some stuff I didn't even know about, especially with the 1099 and oh my goodness, all the other stuff. So you know what? We could go on and on, folks, listening to Chanel about this stuff. But really, what you need to do is pick up the phone and call her up and get some more information about how you can protect your business from a tax perspective. Okay. Because,
Mhm.
like she said, they're not playing, they're no joke. You
No,
know,
they not.
nothing it's nothing like having your taxes really jacked up if you're a small business, and especially if you're a new small business and you don't even do your personal property. Like when I had to do my personal property at the end of the year, I was like, oh my god, I've only been in business 5 months and I got to shell out this $300. Yes, if you are within your tax year at the end of the year in December, you need to get your $300 together. Okay. Just
Mhm.
go ahead and pay it
Mhm.
because they're going to ask
Mhm.
for it regardless. So anyway, so
Yeah.
Chanel, let's talk about your ebook real quick.
Yeah.
About how you came up with the concept of your ebook, and give them the
Yes.
name again.
Okay, so the book is called Asking for Success, My Faith Walk from Employee to Entrepreneur. And well, at the end of the day, I'm a Christian and I'm very proud of that. And I I basically wanted to well one of the biggest things I always was asked over and over again was why did you leave the government to start your own company? Like that is mind boggling to some people, and I can understand that because the government, if you have a government job, is very secure and it's very easy to just say, regardless of the headaches that I'm dealing with in the government, I'll just ride this out until retirement. Well, I wasn't on the retirement end of the spectrum. I had only been there for 7 years, and within that 7 years, I had experienced hiring freeze, a shutdown, the furlough, and an additional hiring freeze. As soon as they opened it back up, they closed it right back, and a lot of downsizing. We were at one point fighting over paper, just to do our job. Yeah, and I'm just like, you know what? I really wanted to put out there to people that it's okay to walk away from something that's comfortable, to do something that is risky and stepping out on faith. And that's what really made me come up with the concept. The concept is, if you look at the title, asking is abbreviated because it's to emphasize the verse about, ask and and seek and knock, and basically the Lord's going to provide whatever it is that you ask for, you seek, or that you go out to get. And I I I think that it was going to be something that was inspirational for people, and to let people know that you're not alone. If you feel alone in wanting to go out and be an entrepreneur, you're not alone. For those of you who believe, Jesus is already with you. God is already with you. The fact that that's in your heart, He put it there, so you're already got at least one other person rooting for you, and that's the plan that He got for you. It's for you. You need to go out there and do it, and you need to walk away from that comfortable 9 to 5 if that's the place that you're in, and do the thing that you most love and that you're passionate about. And I'm telling you, ever since I've done it back in, I left September 30th of 2016. Since then, I have had so many opportunities. I have been so blessed. And every day I get confirmation that this is what I was meant to do. I actually got clients who want to pay me more than my price because they tell me, there's nobody out there that's doing what you're doing, and you really truly helped me, and you doing it in a way that I've never seen done before. I'm paying you $100 more. I was like, are you serious? Thank you.
Yes,
So
because that's the
yeah,
value that you bring. And you know what? I wanted to say real quickly to people who are listening that, I had a chance to purchase Chanel's book and read that. And I found it very, very inspiring because with every piece of her story that she told about herself, there was always an ask and a result. And so when you go onto Amazon and buy her book, which is a really quick read, but it's a very substantial and very content driven read, you should really just check it out and see
mhm,
what is in her story that really applies to you. So,
yeah.
yeah, I really, really love the book, and I want people to love the
Oh,
book
thank
too.
you,
So,
thank
and
you.
yes, you're very valuable because I'm gonna tell you, not many people are going to share the information that you share. They just go straight to the tax thing. This is what I do, and this and that and the other. But you're literally telling people, hey, listen, this is how I teach people about their taxes, so that not only are they knowledgeable about their taxes, but you also help them navigate through the processes because you have the tax part, you have the field audit part, you have the accounting piece, you have the whole entire package. So
Thank
just
you.
loving that all together. So let me ask you real quick. So are
Mhm.
you involved in any conferences or events where people can hear you speak? And are you
Yeah.
looking for speaking opportunities?
Always, I tell people all the time, I stay in my jush, I stay in my tax world. So, but I do, I am starting to branch out to do more inspirational work, and then also too, I am actually a part of a conference that's coming up at the end of the month, and I am so terrible. It's called Brill, BRIL, and the conference, and the acronym, I'm trying to remember what it's Business Resources for Inspiring Leaders. It's going to be in Richmond, at the Delta Hotel downtown Richmond on March 24th. I believe I'm scheduled to speak at 11 a.m. But either way, it's going to be myself, and it's going to be a host of all lady speakers. So, ladies who are listening out there, this is truly going to be a great time because these are ladies who are in business. There's going to actually be an attorney who's going to talk about business structure, and the whole conference is geared more so towards those who are either interested in starting business, those who have just started, or those who are just looking for something new, or they're in a transitional period right now with their business and they just want to be able to make it better or be a better professional. I'm excited for it, and I think it's going to be an amazing time. It's ran 100% by women, but guys, you are welcome to come out as well to support and learn something as well. So very exciting time, March 24th, Delta Hotel, downtown Richmond, Real
Okay,
Conference.
and whatever she has as far as that event and any others that's coming up in the summer months, we're definitely going to have that on her page so that you can definitely download that information and have it for your leisure. And also, again, I want to remind you to check out all of the other financial experts that we're going to have on this platform. We have tax, we have insurance, we have all kinds of stuff that will educate you on what you need for your tax help. And so I want to make sure that people are very educated about what it is that they have in front of them. And so again, Chanel, thank you again for being part of the podcast and supporting the small business movement and sharing everything that you have thus far. I really appreciate it. And thank you again for being a BMWC corporate sponsor.
Thank you so much, Anne, for having me. And I appreciate the fact that you have a passionate heart for not just business professionals, but just the Black community as a whole. And I appreciate the fact that you want to for all of us to be better and do better. So thank you for this platform.
You're welcome. You're certainly welcome.